You're listening to It's Killing Me, where I, comedian Shane Kenny, unpack the history of mental health and all the things that impact it. Something that makes me depressed, angry, and anxious is the genocide of the Palestinians. That's why I'm here at Boeing and Raytheon's LAX offices. Cue the music. Why am I caught up in all of this? Well, I first heard the words Gaza and Intifada from the Rage Against the Machine song War Within a Breath, with the verse, yes, for Raza, living in Lala like Gaza, on through the dawn, Intifada, reach for the lesson the mass passed on, and seize the metropolis it's built on. What a verse. But my first time learning about Palestine as a state or as a people wasn't until my senior year of high school when I was taking AP US history and it was briefly mentioned at the end of a World War II section. It wasn't until I was in college at San Francisco State in 2016 organizing with a coalition of different student groups to save the Ethnic Studies department that I got a different insight to what the Palestinians were dealing with. A Palestinian friend noticed my Irish name and goes, "You're Irish, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, Aaron go bragh." And he then began to kindly enlighten me of our shared history of that Palestinians have also endured British occupation, displacement, and hunger. And I felt a deep sense of cultural solidarity that has driven me to learn more about this incredible place, people, and its history, both modern and ancient. Ireland has been struggling with English occupation and hegemony for over 500 years. But let's go back further, to the 50s BC, when the Romans started displacing the semi-nomadic Celtic peoples out of Gaul and Iberia, modern-day France and Spain. Most famously with Caesar at the Siege of Alesia, which disturbingly resembles Gaza in terms of the starvation of women and children. Netanyahu's sieges like Caesar, but without the sex life, badass monologues, and historical respect. Many people have asked why I care so much about this issue, saying, it doesn't affect you. Famine and displacement bother me because they're why my ancestors came to America. My compassion for the Palestinians has affected my livelihood as well. Last year, I was suspiciously laid off 2 days after sharing an interview from Middle East Eye with Irish politician Richard Boyd, talking about how the same military-industrial complex personnel and politicians that England used to divide Ireland went to Palestine when things settled down in Ireland. To quote Richard Boyd, they very consciously exported the model they had imposed on Ireland to Palestine with terrible consequences.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
If getting the slaughter of Gaza to stop is this difficult, I can't imagine how difficult addressing the West Bank is going to be. Hundreds of Palestinians are still unjustly detained for months and years, tortured, raped, and have amputations from handcuffs being too tight. Or executed, on top of all of that. On the news, they keep talking about the day after. This doesn't stop when the bombs or the bullets do. The trauma will be felt for generations, emotionally and genetically. Epigenetic tags have been found on kids conceived by people experiencing starvation. Usually these tags are signs of gene deactivation through a process called methylation. The long-term impacts of this gene activation aren't fully known. Even enough food after the initial starvation doesn't remove these genetic tags. There's no amount of money that can fully heal the wounds of trauma and starvation felt throughout generations. The environmental impact will be permanently felt in numerous ways, like the soil and water being contaminated by white phosphorus, aka napalm's cousin, housing insulation spilling in from bombs ripping them apart, sewage seeping through from the damaged water system, and the salt water the Israeli occupation force is flooding the tunnels with. From Ulster in Ireland to Gaza to Atlanta, these militarized police forces and their tactics are spreading to repress the will of the people. After October 7th, the Israeli government mobilized 300,000 troops. That's 20,000 more than Russia invaded Ukraine with. The U.S. government standing with Ukraine but not with Palestine is proof that the U.S. does not stand for freedom, it stands for whiteness and colonialism. U.S. law enforcement agencies have tech exchange and personnel training programs with the Israeli military and law enforcement. Cop City in Atlanta will be used by Israeli soldiers and cops. Look at what they are doing to repress Cop City activists. Tortuguita was in a tent peacefully protesting in the forest. Multiple cops shot him 57 times. It was to send a message. If that's what they'll do to the peaceful protesters, imagine what they'll do when we actually fight back. It's a reflection of the slaughter of Palestinians and foreign aid workers. Cop City was modeled off of Gaza. 69 cop cities are planned, being built, or already built across the U.S. Militarized cops affect us all. In my time as a peaceful protester, I've been pepper sprayed, concussion grenaded, and knocked on my back multiple times by fully armored cops. We've seen this recently with police surveillance drones and cops in full body armor at peaceful protests. The violent Zionist mob that attacked the UCLA student encampment while fully armored cops watched was a reflection of the impunity that Zionists in the West Bank operate with. Israeli occupation forces either ignore the cries of the Palestinians getting shot and losing their land, or assist the Zionists in their displacing of the Palestinians.
You all that chant loud with me. Resistance is justified. When people are occupied. Resistance is justified. When people are occupied.
But since money is what capitalism cares about most, let's get into the money of this situation. The cost of that U.S.-built pier that didn't work was $230 million. That's the same price as 230 homes in L.A. County. Or almost 45 million Big Macs. Israel has the U.S. government's balls clenched so tight that it's easier for the U.S. to build a pier that doesn't work than to tell Israel, let the food through, or no more bombs and geopolitical support from war crimes. According to PolitiFact, since 1945, Israel has received $318 billion in aid of all types from the U.S. Every year for the last 15 years, the U.S. has given Israel $3 to $4 billion in military aid. Come on, America, I'd rather have free education, free healthcare, and save Red Lobster than the Israeli military. According to the Department of Defense, the defense budget in 2023 was $816.7 billion. And all this money for the military aid ain't just going in cartoony bags of cash to Israel. It's going to companies like Boeing and Raytheon behind me. Nice try, RTX. We know you're Raytheon. The Gaza Strip is 141 square miles, and it's being bombed as much as Nazi Germany was at the end of World War II. I'm a fan of Slaughterhouse-5 and Palestinians, but I do not want to see that combination. Entire bloodlines of Palestinian families have been wiped out. More than 37,000 Palestinians have been slaughtered since October 7th. More than 16,000 of those are kids. We're on the El Segundo side of LAX, and the population here is about 16,000. We have killed an El Segundo's worth of Palestinian kids. Every university in Gaza has been destroyed. The average college in the U.S. has 5,000 to 15,000 students. More than 1 to 3 colleges worth of kids have been slaughtered in Gaza in less than a year. More than 17,000 kids have lost one or both parents. That number of orphans does not get you respect or safety, it gets you a DC Comics multiverse.
There is only one solution. Intifada revolution.
More than 600,000 students in Gaza have been out of school for 8 months. But the leadership of Israel, the US, Germany, England, and all the other countries that support Israel need to learn compassion and empathy more than kids need to learn Y equals MX plus B. Sources for this: Al Jazeera, Democracy Now!, Middle East Eye, PolitiFact, Nature.com, CNN, The New York Times, Hardcore History with Dan Carlin, and Kings and Generals. Sirsa Dawn Palestine on the scene here at Boeing and Raytheon's office next to LAX. You're listening to It's Killing Me. I'm Shane Kenny.